will need this support to get through the dissertation process. And so I'm just seeing that my audio is finally back on with Facebook, so we're all set to go. So again, it's Dr. Ramon Goins with a done dissertation, and in today's video, we're going to talk about the 3 myths you believe about the dissertation process that keep you stuck. And I see the real deal Rob is on. Is that Dr. Robinson? I think I can't see the picture on Instagram, but that's so good to see you. And so again, I want you all to share with 3 folks that you think can find value out of learning about the 3 myths that about this dissertation process that keep you stuck. And this video today just comes from a conversation I've been having not only with my clients, but with also other folks about the dissertation process. And a lot of times we make this thing out to be very difficult when it doesn't need to be. But there are 3 myths that when I hear people talk about why they believe they're stuck is the reason why it's around these 3 myths in particular. Dr. Robinson, it's good to see you, man. Good to see you. And so just real quick, if you are someone, Dr. Robinson, who's on Instagram, if you're following him, make sure you follow him at The Real D Rob, Deerob. So again, I want to make sure we give folks a minute or 2 to jump on, and then we're going to go right into the content for today. And so to get started, we're going to give folks go ahead and get started. You'd be surprised, right? When folks are going through the dissertation process, a lot of times what keeps people back from finishing is not about the skill set. A lot of times we go into the dissertation thinking it's about our skill set, and that's the reason why we are not getting through. However, it's just some myths that we internally hold on to that keep us stuck. And so I want to talk about those three of them in particular that I know have just been keeping folks stuck getting through the dissertation process. And again, this video comes from just talking with a number of clients, talking with a number of folks out there, trying to figure out how to navigate the dissertation process and not get so overwhelmed that instead of doing something, you become stuck. And so the 3 myths I want to share, I want to start with myth number 1. The first myth that I'm seeing that doctoral students are holding on to and they believe about the dissertation process that's going to keep you stuck is this idea that writing a dissertation is difficult. And it's interesting, right? It comes from a number of places. Oftentimes when you ask like a family and friends, like, hey, what are you up to? And you say, I'm in a doctoral program. They say, ooh, you got to write that book. And so it's like ingrained in us, even from family and friends, before we get to our doctoral program, that somehow this dissertation process is going to be difficult for us. So we start with that before we get to the doctoral program. But then while we're in the doctoral program, then we have sometimes our professors kind of play into it, making it seem like the process is very difficult, right? And so we get scared. And in particular, we start to get scared when we get that feedback from a professor that we don't know how to take or we don't like. Or it's just something that, we went through a master's program, you did very well as an academic writer, and then you get to your professors for your doctoral program, and they start pushing back on your writing because they said this is not dissertation quality. So as a student, you always running through the back of your mind is that, well, is my work ever going to be ready for a dissertation? Like, am I ever going to transform from the student to a scholar? And that mindset is what actually keeps us stuck. But what I want to tell you today is that actually the myth you believe about the dissertation and writing it being difficult is actually indeed a myth, because the reality is that it's actually not that difficult. Actually, writing a dissertation is more of a persistence than it is the actual writing and actually trying to have the actual skill set, right? Because I always find that I can teach anybody how to develop the academic writing skill set if they're willing to put the work in. But what keeps people stuck is not about what they're writing, it's about what's inside their head and what they're thinking about the dissertation. So if you think that it's going to be difficult, then you can guarantee that it indeed will be difficult. And the real Rob says on Instagram, it makes it seem that writing is tedious and tenuous. That is for sure. So you all got to know that at times this process does not have to be difficult. But again, we hear it before we get into a doctoral program, because as soon as someone, or you say that, hey, I'm in a doctoral program, you say, oh my God, you're in a program like that? You must be really smart. So it kind of puts these thoughts in your head, like, am I that smart? Are they just saying this to, satisfy me? Then also when you get into your doctoral program, your professors might challenge you on your writing. So then it makes things like, make you start to think about, am I worthy of this? Do I have high quality work? And then also these conversations that you have with classmates who are a little bit ahead of you. They might say, oh, don't take such and such professor because they're going to make this process difficult. And what I want to tell you is that it's not about the writing. It's honestly about you believing that you can get through this process. Because as you will find it, when you start going and getting around enough academics, you will start to learn that not everyone was the smartest that got to that point. And that's just the reality of it. And I could be frank with that, just being where I am in my position, having seen and interacted with a number of folks. And if you go to academic conferences, you'll see this kind of play out. But it's not a matter of folks finishing because they were the smartest in the room. It was because they were the most likely to be persistent. And so whenever they found a challenge, they did not cave in. They were actually looking at, well, what can I learn from this challenge? And then what can I do to make sure that it doesn't happen to me anymore, and that I learn from it, and then I move on and get through the process. And so if you start to adapt that mindset, things become a lot easier. I'm a firm believer that if you think the dissertation is going to be difficult, it will indeed be difficult. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. But what you just have to understand is that in order to get through the dissertation, because it's a process, there are three components to the process. There are the people, there is the process, and there is the product. And when I talk about people, I'm talking about your dissertation chair and committee, also your family members, like all those people, your accountability partners, your reality check partners. And if you don't know about them, I talk about them more in my book, 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation. So you can learn more about who those people are and what they mean to your process. But people, we often forget about the people part. We just think about it's all about writing. Oftentimes you hear a lot of folks out there just saying, oh, sit down and write every day. That's a component of it, but there's a process going on. So first you have to understand your people. Once you start to understand your people, that you start to figure out that actually writing a dissertation is not that difficult once I have the right people in place. Then from there, you have to then understand the process. You start to understand, like, how do I work with the people that I'm interacting with? Like, how do I work with my chair? When do they like for me to submit documents? Do they want my dissertation in chapters, or do they want a whole proposal at once? These are conversations that's all part of the process. Also, how often or how much time does it take for a faculty member to give you feedback? And so you may have an expectation of one, maybe a week, maybe 3 days. I've seen from some students, and your professor might have, again, an idea of like 3 to 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks. But because you didn't have that conversation with the people, again, people are so important to getting through the dissertation that you made it very difficult. But again, if you have the right people in place, then you understand the process from beginning to end. Then what ends up happening is that you have a great product, and the product becomes the end result of having the right people in place and understanding the process. And I always would argue that you could be the best writer, but if you don't have the right people and you don't understand the process, you will remain today, a year from now, stuck. And I just think this is something you all have to consider as you're moving through the dissertation process. But again, myth number one that you believe is that writing a dissertation is difficult. I want to let you know today that is not difficult when you understand the people in your process, you understand how the process works. Your product, the actual dissertation, will actually be quite good once you get to that point. But I find for a lot of folks, this is where they get stuck. And so if you are on any of the social media platforms where I'm streaming, I just want to let you know that please do submit any question that you have in the chat. On Instagram, you can use the question box to go ahead and submit a question. If you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, please submit a question. So if you have it, I'll pull up on screen and talk through it with you all as the questions kind of pop up. So again, we were talking about the 3 myths that you believe about the dissertation process that keep you stuck. So the first myth is that you believe that writing the dissertation is difficult. This second myth is that often I hear a lot of doc students say this, is that I should not apply for faculty positions because I have no publications as a graduate student. And again, myth number 2 is that you believe that you should not apply for faculty positions because you don't have any publications as a doctoral student. And I hear this a lot because a lot of students are learning or are hearing from others, which makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong, writing for publication is important and it's helpful to get you to that position as a first year tenure track assistant professor. But a lot of times people tell you this advice and tell you like, oh, don't apply if you don't have any publications. That is the worst advice I would get. That's the worst advice that you can get from someone. The reason why I say this, right, because this might differ from a lot of faculty members, is because there is no way I can guarantee that you won't get a position if you don't apply, right? So them telling you not to apply because you don't have any positions will guarantee you will not have a position on this upcoming job market season. I always say like this, I'm a basketball player. My experience, as an athlete was just like, I always will shoot my shot, right? And you don't make a shot that you don't take. So I'm always a firm believer that in order to get the faculty position of your dreams, you have to apply for it. So that means you have to let that mindset go that you need publications. You need to let that go and actually apply for a position. You'd be surprised at what happens. And I've seen it in my career, even being someone starting out, just so you all know, when I came out of my doctoral program, I had 3 journal articles published, and then I had about 8 or 9 under review. And the positions I was applying for, I ended up landing a position, but then some, even with publications, I didn't get. And so I share that with you because even if you have publications, sometimes you still aren't the best fit. You aren't the perfect match for the position. So I'm always a firm believer in applying for the position that makes best sense, that is aligned with your skill set, that is aligned for what you want out of an institution, and that you find will get you to the next level of where you want to be. Again, don't let folks, oftentimes what happens, and this is the reality, I'm gonna give you all the real deal. So your professors and others in the field, they're actually forecasting their insecurities onto you when they tell you not to apply for positions because you don't have any pubs. That's probably how they were feeling when they were graduate students coming out of their doctoral program. And so I want you all to start thinking about this idea that you don't have to succumb to that myth that you have to have publications to apply. Of course, it does make you more quote marketable, but you are marketable in your own right by who you are and the work that you do, and the fact that you're looking to do research that transforms communities, organizations, and people that you care most about. But the publications help. But I would always say that you need to go apply for that position, shoot your shot, because I will guarantee if you do not apply, you will not get a position. And this is something in our Done Dissertation Velocity Group coaching program that we specialize in, is helping doctoral students who are looking to make that transition from student to faculty get in our program. So if you're interested in something like this and getting the support to not only finish your dissertation, but then apply for faculty positions and know how to get through the process, feel free to apply and work with us in our January 2022 cohort. You can go to www.velocitydissertation.com. And so, again, we talked about the first myth that doctoral students believe. Often that you might believe that writing the dissertation is difficult. Again, I want to shatter that myth that it is not difficult when you have the right people in place and you understand the process. The second myth that I see a lot of doctoral students believe is that you should not apply for faculty positions because you don't have any publications. Again, that is oftentimes other people forecasting their insecurities onto you. I will let you all know not to believe that. This whole faculty life is all about taking chances, all about shooting your shot. And so I want you all to start getting familiar and getting comfortable in doing that now. You may not get the position. That is a firm reality. You may be competing with 150 other folks. That is the reality in some cases, depending on your discipline, the university, the position, right? But you have to apply, especially when you're a great fit for the position. Now, if you're not a fit, or you may be at an assistant professor level applying for associate professor with no experience, no publications, okay, we may say that's not the perfect fit for you at this point in time in your career, right? But if you find a position that is an entry-level tenure track assistant professor position, you should definitely be applying if all the stars align with where the position is located, what you need in the position, and then the institution type. All those things are important. And again, I don't want you to succumb to that myth that you should not apply because you don't have any publications. And then lastly, the third myth that I find that doctoral students believe about the dissertation process that'll keep you stuck is that this idea that your writing has to be perfect. Yeah, I'm trying to tell y'all, the writing piece is what's holding folks back, and it's not about the skill of writing. It's about the mindset about writing. It's about your thoughts and what you believe about writing. What I find is a lot of folks, they start, writing a dissertation, and they start to get a little momentum. And then they get to a point where they're getting close to either finishing a chapter, finishing a section, and then what they do is stop, and then they go back and reread everything that they wrote and just realize, oh, this is terrible. And then you start having these negative mindsets about writing. And it's centered on you wanting it to be perfect. I'm here to tell you today, your writing doesn't need to be perfect. It needs to be done. Because what happens is once you hit submit and send it to your chair, they're going to have feedback for you. So I always say there's no point in trying to get your writing perfect, because the more perfect you try to get, the more of a barrier you will cause for yourself to get through the dissertation. Because what's going to happen is that you want to be so perfect that you're going to strive for perfection. You're going to edit. You're going to spend weeks editing. And then what's going to happen is that you submit, and then your chair's going to have so much feedback for you, and you're going to get very frustrated because you felt like it was perfect. I just want to let you all know it's not perfect, and your writing won't be perfect. That's not the goal. The goal is to get it done. And what I always suggest is for doctoral students to think about, and I talk about this in 14 Secrets to a Done Dissertation, is apply what I call the 80% rule. And if you're interested, grab the book so you can learn more about the 80% rule. And if you apply that to your academic writing, I promise you that you will never need your writing to be perfect, because you want to get to 80% in high quality to submit it off, because your chair and committee members are going to push you to get it to the next, 20% to get it to that quote 100% perfect. And this is the thing I want you all to start thinking about, because oftentimes we get stuck in this process because we want everything to be perfect when you need it to be done. And also, here's a secret for those of you, because we work with doctoral students who want to become faculty members. This doesn't just extend to the dissertation. This actually extends beyond into your faculty life when you start writing for publication. When I work with folks in our dissertation to publication mastermind, I hear a lot of folks that get stuck because they don't understand the publication process, and they feel like their writing has to be perfect in order to submit to their quote top tier journal. And because they need to be perfect, they don't submit. So I find that if you're as a doctoral student, if you can start to disrupt this mindset of perfection now, it will save you so much time when you get into that faculty position, when you feel like, you have a lot of pressure on you to write and publish, because that is part of the job now. But again, now's the time to set these habits that will put you on a pathway to success. And I promise you that the more you become uninterested in becoming perfect, the easier it will become. You'll start to find that, all right, I'm going to get this high quality because that's who you are as a scholar. I'm going to submit. I'm going to get my chair to give me some feedback. I'm going to apply the feedback, what I can do, what I can't, I'll give a rebuttal to, I'll give a rationale, and then move on. And then as you do this with your chair and with your committee, you will fly through the process. And literally, I would just give an example today. I had a doctoral student that was in our June cohort, came in after the proposal defense. He wrote chapters 4 and 5 in 2 months. And then now he's getting ready to defend his dissertation. And we were just having his dissertation defense session today. And literally, he knew that in order to get this done, he had to get out of the mindset of being perfect. And then when he started to work with his committee members, they pushed it the rest of the way. And literally, once he did that and let go, they pushed it the rest of the way. And now he's getting ready to defend next week. And so these things that really happen for you when you let go of this idea of perfection, because it just doesn't exist. And you'll spend too much time and too much money trying to get to it to find out that it wasn't all it was cracked up to be. You want this thing done, because at the end of the day, no one says, is your dissertation perfect? They say, hey, did you finish? Did you get it done? Do you have your letters? And now can we get you into this faculty position? And so with that, just to recap, we talked about the 3 myths that you believe about the dissertation process that keep you stuck. Myth number 1 is that you believe that writing a dissertation is actually difficult, when indeed it can be very simple if you have the right people and understand the process. Myth number 2 that you believe is that you have to or should not apply for faculty positions if you don't have any publications. The reality is you will never get a job that you don't apply for. So don't let other people push their insecurities onto you about what they believe should happen for people trying to get faculty positions. You need to apply to positions that fit your lifestyle, that fit the type of institution that you want to work at, and also have a similar, like mind in terms of their positionality, in terms of how they want to support the community or whatever it is that is important to you in your journey. And then myth number 3 that you believe that keep you stuck is that your writing has to be perfect. Indeed, your writing has to be done, and you want to get it to 80% in very high quality, because your committee and your chair will push it the rest of the way. The more likely you are to get out of this perfection mindset, the easier it will become when you become a faculty member and you start having to write for publication, because the same thought process applies. You need to get it high quality because reviewers, and particularly reviewer number 2. And so for folks who are writing for publication, type it in the chat, because I know you all know what this experience is like when you're dealing with reviewer number 2 who has so many things to write and so many comments for your paper. This is what will hold you back if you haven't thought through and gotten through that perfection mindset. But again, there will always be reviewers. There will always be people giving you feedback. And so you don't want it perfect. You want it out there and high quality and done. It makes the process a lot easier. And when you get and disrupt all 3 of these myths, I promise you the dissertation process and securing a faculty position will be so much easier. And with that, if you are a doctoral student and you're looking to finish your dissertation and transition into a faculty position, whether it be a adjunct lecturer or tenure track assistant professor, or you want to work in faculty life in some type of way, you definitely want to apply to work with us because that is our specialty. And you can learn more about the Done Dissertation Velocity Group Coaching Program at www.velocitydissertation.com. And with that, I want to open it up for any questions. I know we have some folks on Instagram Live and also on Facebook and LinkedIn. So I would love to see if you all have any questions. Go ahead and submit them now. I'd love to take your questions. And our folks on Instagram, I'm going to go ahead and put, and actually, if someone's on Instagram and can do this for me real quick, just go ahead and type www.velocitydissertation.com, just so everybody has it, and I'll pin it. Any questions that folks might have about the dissertation process? All right. And I know, and we may have some comments on Facebook, so I'm going ahead and try to pull those up as I'm talking with you all right now. But any questions that folks might have about getting through the dissertation process. And again, if you're a doctoral student trying to figure out, want to get through, make sure you reach out to us on www.thedonedissertation.com, and you can click on apply for Velocity, and you can learn more about getting through the dissertation with us in the Done Dissertation Velocity Group Coaching Program. And so I see we have a question on Instagram, on Facebook from Lauren that says, I'm stuck on the conceptual framework. So Lauren, real quick, if you can you talk a little bit more about why you are stuck on the conceptual framework? Is it because it's not aligned with your study currently, or what's the feedback that you're getting? Because what I found with a lot of conceptual frameworks, the reason why folks are getting stuck is because oftentimes there's either not an alignment. Thank you, Ron, for posting that on Instagram. I'm going to go ahead and pin your comment. So what I find on the conceptual framework is that a lot of folks get stuck because there's not an alignment between the framework, your topic, your research questions, and your methodology. And so a lot of times that's the comments that I see folks getting on their work, is because they're not all aligned. And that's when you hear that comment, that's what your chair or someone is trying to say when they're talking about your conceptual framework. Another issue sometimes I see with conceptual frameworks is, okay, I see Lauren says that my professor isn't giving much feedback. He keeps sending me websites to read. What exactly is it? Okay, so your conceptual framework or theoretical framework, depending on how what you're looking at, is, think about it like this. It's like the lens, like the goggles that you're looking at to understand your issue. And so, Lauren, in this case, for instance, let's say, and I'll use my own research because that's the best way I can describe it, right? So I did a study on the I take my own dissertation. I'll go there. My dissertation focused on the academic and social experiences of high achieving Black men who attended an historically Black college university, right? And so my conceptual framework, there was a number of ways that I was interested, because I was interested in looking at their academic experiences and looking at how did the institution support them. I had a number of different lenses I could initially have gone with to understand their success. Since one of my conceptual frameworks or theoretical framework lenses could have been racial identity. So I could have been very interested in looking at the racial identity and how that impacts success of Black men at HBCUs. If I wanted to understand it from just motivation, I could use motivation theory or some form of motivation theory to understand how are Black men at HBCUs motivated to succeed. In my case, I used what's called the scholar identity model, and I wanted to understand what were the internal characteristics for them to develop this scholar identity. And then I also use Bronfenbrenner's bioecological systems theory to understand what does the environment of these men, how does that play a role in their success? So that gave me a different lens. So essentially I could have looked at Black male student success at HBCUs through 3 different lenses, and my conceptual or theoretical framework would allow me to do that. So Lauren, when they keep saying that, I want you to understand what that is, they're looking at what is the lens. Imagine if you're looking at something, what is the lens that allows you to understand what it is that you're seeing with your data? And again, theoretical and conceptual frameworks, it is a little heady. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little abstract at first when you're trying to get into it and think through how to do this. But what I would suggest is that you continue to go on and read literature that uses frameworks so that you can start to feel more comfortable and understand how they're using it and how they're applying it to their study. And Lauren, tell me if that provides some insight for you, and I can expand if I need to. That's a great question. And we got Ron's comment pinned, but Ron, do you have any questions on Instagram or anybody else that's on? I want to say thank you to everybody who's joined in, is tuned in. It's really helpful, and I hope you all are finding some value in this. And again, if you're looking for support to get through the dissertation, I'd love for you to apply to work with us. Just visit www.velocitydissertation.com. Perfect, Lauren. I'm glad that was helpful in some ways. I know it's a lot, and there are some good articles that you can search that talk about conceptual frameworks that break it down. Think about it like some people give an analogy to like building the foundation for your house. It's hard to do that. It's hard to build a house without foundation, and oftentimes the conceptual framework is the foundation for your study. And I call it the engine of the study. So in order to drive a car, you need your engine, and so I think the conceptual theoretical framework is the engine that guides the study, and it should be, once you have your topic, then your framework should be dictating your research questions, maybe possibly your methodology, how you're approaching it, how you analyze your data. It is the engine throughout the entire project. And this is something that's going to be very important for you to master. And this is something that in our program, we actually teach students. So we have an entire module on theoretical and conceptual frameworks, so folks understand it, and not only understand it, but then learn how to write it so that they can get through the process. And so I'm seeing that Ron says, let's see, I'm stuck learning PLS. Is that a like a quantitative methodology? I'm trying to think what in terms of PLS. Can you explain that more, or where you're stuck? Hey, Carrie, thanks for tuning in. Ron, if you tell me a little bit more about where you're stuck or why you're stuck learning it. Oh, structural equation modeling. Okay. Have you considered getting a tutor? I could definitely shoot you a recommendation for one if you're struggling with getting this done. One of my former graduate assistants now, Dr. Boyd, she is a psychometrician, and so this is her area of expertise. So if you're not finding the support, definitely reach out and get help to get through that. So Ron, yes, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and then I will send you Dr. Boyd's email address, and you can reach out to learn more about her services. But again, like I'm always a firm believer, like getting the support in the areas that we're not strong in, especially when we're struggling. Of course, I don't know if I'm assuming you're in coursework, Ron, but let me know if I'm wrong. Especially when you're in coursework, and you're trying to like get through these classes, like you need help, but not only help, but help to understand the concept so that you can apply it yourself later. Okay, yes, for coursework. Okay, perfect. So yeah, that is the thing that you have to consider, like getting some support in the areas that you may need it. Other folks who are currently on, any questions that you might have? And I know we got thanks for Dr. Rob being on. And Meg, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Good to see you. Any questions right now? Again, we talked about the 3 myths about the dissertation process that keep doctoral students stuck. And to do a quick recap before we wrap up for this evening, is that one, we believe that as a doctoral student that writing a dissertation is difficult. It doesn't have to be when you have the right people in place and you understand the process. Myth number 2 that you believe is that you should not apply for faculty positions because you don't have any publications as a graduate student. That is a lie, and that is oftentimes other people putting their insecurities onto you, when you should definitely be applying for positions, because if you don't apply, you won't get one. That's one thing for certain. And then 3, the third myth is that this idea that your writing needs to be perfect. And what you all, if you haven't figured it out yet, as a doctoral student, your writing doesn't have to be perfect. It's got to be done. Because what's going to happen is you're going to spend all this time trying to get things perfect. And then what's going to happen is that you're going to spend a lot of time and spend a lot of money to only figure out that your faculty member is going to have a whole bunch of feedback for you anyway. So it's always in your goal to hit submit and not worry about being perfect. And again, this is not only a skill set for the doctoral process, but also for getting your faculty position and navigating the peer review process when you're writing journal articles and writing books and all those other things. And Dr. Rob, I appreciate you for tuning in, man. I appreciate you. Thank you. I love the work that you're doing with students at the beginning of the doctoral process. So that is great because a lot of people need support as they're getting through their coursework. And so I'm glad you're doing that work. So lastly, as we wrap up, I want to make sure that if you need support to get through, and I see, hey, Tiffany, I see you just jumped on. Good to see you and congrats on everything for that you have going on with your committee. And so what I want you all to do is that if you need support getting through the dissertation process, you find that what you've been trying to do hasn't been working, and you've been in the same process today that you were 2 months from now and 6 months from now, stop getting in your head about getting support. Go ahead and get the support that you need. And that's through working with us in the Done Dissertation Velocity Group Coaching Program. And I have a current client that's actually on Instagram. You can tell them like kind of how the sessions have been going so far, and the cohort hasn't even officially started yet. And so we're already moving forward, making progress. But again, you all need to get the support because there's no need to sit in a doctoral program forever trying to get through this coursework when you can get a proven process to get you through faster. And again, that's what we're doing. But a lot of times it's not about the writing. It's about the myths about the dissertation that we believe. And that's why I wanted to talk about those 3 main myths that I see happening with a lot of doctoral students that I wanted to chat with you all about. So I'll leave it open for another minute or two. Are there any other questions? I'd be happy to take those now. But if not, we will definitely tune in next week as we have another conversation about the dissertation and kind of getting you through the process. And if there are any other topics that you ever want to learn more about and you have questions about, please shoot me a DM on whatever platform you're watching this on so that this can be of more assistance to you and better support so that we can make sure that you get through the dissertation quickly. Perfect. Thank you so much, Tiffany. She said, yes, we are making progress. I'm glad I joined the Done Dissertation family. Yeah, we got to get folks through this process. And it doesn't take a lot. Like we just had a breakthrough yesterday just on how to push back against faculty when they give you a suggestion that might not make sense for your work. And it's always the small things. It's not always the big pieces that you need, right? It's sometimes a little strategy. Again, I'm all about giving folks the strategy on how to get through the process. Because again, what you've been doing at this point has not been working. And so there's no need to be sitting in doctoral programs, spending thousands of dollars in tuition to have no progress to show for it. And so all you have to do is make the decision to learn a proven process to get through. And that's what we provide with the Done Dissertation. And are there any other questions before I go ahead and jump off for today? Thank you for folks who just tune in on IG. We're talking about the myths that keep doctoral students stuck. So if you have a question, go ahead and drop it in because I was getting ready to jump off. But you do have a question because we had a couple people jump on. I would love to take any questions that you have. Megan, perfect. Meg, where are you in the dissertation process right now? Yeah, I'm glad this was helpful for you and something that you needed to hear. Ron, I'm happy this came right on time. Yeah, man. It's that season, right? We're getting to the holiday season. This is a lot of times when folks start to slack on the dissertation, but I'm like, I want you all to keep pushing to get through because you all might have some downtime coming up over the next month or two. So I want you all to start really pushing towards getting this dissertation done. And Meg said you're at the proposal. Perfect. If you need some support, please feel free to reach out because we're definitely helping folks get through. Oh, and Megan said she has a committee change as well. Yeah, I know how that goes. Sometimes, the committees don't work out how they're supposed to, and you have to navigate that. And that's something that we teach on not only how to write, but how to navigate the people, because the people are what's going to hold you back from getting through the process. And again, we want to make sure that you're doing all that you can do to get through in record time. And Ron says timing is everything. It really is. It really is. So any questions, Megan, any questions that you have? And Ron, any questions that you might have? I want to make sure you get some value and get what you need to get out of this. So if there's something happening with your proposal, Meg, just feel free to, share, and then we can talk a little bit of strategy before I jump off. And again, if there's some topics or things that you might be thinking about struggling with, feel free to shoot me a DM on whatever platform you're watching this on, and I'd be happy to incorporate that into future videos to support you all as doctoral students getting through this process. So Ron asked a great question. I love his question. So Ron asked, I've seen a lot of talk about going into industry versus academia. Which do you think is better? Why not do both? Is my response. Because I'm in academia, I'm a professor, so that's my full-time job, but I also have a business as well. And I'm always thinking about, why can't we do both? And then something that I always teach, and it's something that I'm going to be teaching in my mastermind for those who have earned their PhD and looking to then leverage it to build a business, is that you can leverage your research skill set and in academia to then build your own business, so you have your own entity to build and grow and do those things. But I'm always for folks having options. I am not the type of faculty member that's going to say, oh, you just need to become a faculty member. Like, no, that's not always the case. I want people to go on faculty who want to become faculty members. But if you have thoughts about going into industry, I'm always for that. Like, I think we should be able to do both. And honestly, I see folks jumping back and forth between them because of the skill set. Once you have the skill set to be able to write and publish, and you just keep up with it, you could always come back to academia, and you can go to industry, do that. Some people do that to make more money, and then come back to academia because they have maybe some leadership experiences in industry that they can leverage to get higher positions in academia at a dean level type, or even department chair, dean level type positions. So there are a lot of ways to go about the process. And I just think having both is an option. And I'm always firm in that belief. But I'm a firm believer, though, that every academic should have a business that they own outright themselves. Because what can happen with any job, I don't care if it's faculty, industry, what have you, is that those jobs can end. Regardless what they say about tenure and promotion, all those things can end. And I always feel like you need to have something that you can fall back on and that you can have running. So at any point, if you need to leave and you're burnt out or whatever, you have something that you can go to and generate income immediately and not worry about, can I sustain my life? And so that's just my honest perspective on that, Ron. But that is a great question. If you have a follow-up, just let me know in the comments. And then Meg says, I need to address the committee to move forward. So Meg, are they giving you some type of suggestion or feedback that is negative? That's what I'm trying to figure out from that comment, on how you need to address them moving forward. And Ron says, makes perfect sense. Do it all. Yeah, I'm a firm believer. You all, like, as doctoral students, when you have this skill set that, I'm hoping that you catch as a doctoral student. But then what I teach explicitly in my dissertation and publication mastermind is that you need to be leveraging your skill set to generate income for yourself. And I think having both is the best of both worlds. So Megan says the advisor is always trying to change. So I'm assuming like always trying to change either something that you've written, maybe your framework, maybe how you're approaching a lit review. That's quite common. And again, this is something that we help our clients do. We were just talking about this last night on our coaching call. You have to start becoming more strategic and more assertive in your responses. So if you don't want to change the topic, then have a great rationale using the literature as to why you shouldn't change the topic. That would be my easiest answer for you to deal with your committee members. Yeah, that is when someone tells you to change your research topic, you have to be firm. But it starts with you being confident. So I find that as a student, when faculty are pushing you and you go with the push, it's because you're not confident in your topic. And so the more confident you become, and I find that the easier it will be for you to have those conversations with faculty to just say, no, my topic is this. And it's something I suggest that you actually write out on a piece of paper or type it on your computer and rehearse it over and over again. Because that is something that is so important. And as you see back in the comments, Tiffany just said, I had the same issue. Dr. Goins coached me through this process. Like, we literally were just doing this on our coaching call yesterday with our velocity cohort. And so, Megan, these are the things that, our program specializes in and helping you know the strategy on how to get through the dissertation. So I would just welcome you to apply to work with us and let us help get you through the process. Yeah, literally, Tiffany put into action yesterday, what we talked about yesterday, today had a response that was a win. Like literally, it doesn't take a lot. It just takes for you to get the strategy and then implement it. And the next you know, you'll be off on, off to the races. But again, it's all about being confident, I think, in this process and being able to push back, of course, with respect, because you are dealing with people who have kind of like your future in their hands. So you can't be disrespectful in how you do it, but you can be very much assertive and saying, no, this is exactly what I need. This is exactly where I am in this process. This is exactly what my topic is. And when you stand firm in that, I think you'll stop hearing a lot of the back and forth about changing your topic. All right. Anything last call for anything else before I jump off? Yeah, this has been very insightful. I hope you all got a lot of value out of this. I really say thank you so much for your time, because I know you all are doing a lot of work and can do anything else with your evening. So I want to say thank you all for tuning in and joining me today. Ron says, can I join at any point in the doctoral process? So Ron, for anyone interested in working with us, we actually only work with doctoral students when they're at writing their dissertation. So we want people past the comprehensive exams that are actually focused on writing their dissertation. If you're in a program, Ron, where it looks like that you're doing coursework while doing the dissertation, that is fine. I have a number of clients that are like in coursework and simultaneously writing the dissertation. So if you're in that boat, then we're a great fit. But if you're still in coursework only and you're not doing anything around a dissertation and you don't have a committee in place, those types of things, we are not the best fit at that point in time. I want you to work with us when you're ready to actually get cracking on your dissertation, because we want to move quickly to get you through, but it's going to take having a committee in place, at least having a chair, because we want to make sure that as you're writing these chapters, you have someone to get the feedback from so that we can help you get the strategy on getting through. And yes, Ron, okay, if you're writing during coursework, then yeah, you need to go ahead. If you want to work with us, go ahead and apply www.velocitydissertation.com. You would be a great fit. I got a couple folks right now in a lot of these executive EDD programs in education in particular. A lot of folks are doing their coursework while they are writing the dissertation. So that is something definitely we can help with. Perfect, Ron. I'll be on the lookout for that. And so I want to say thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. And I look forward to catching up with you all next week when we talk about another topic related to navigating the dissertation process. So if you took nothing from today's talk, it's just the idea that the process is not as hard as it appears to be. And if you have the right people in place and understand the process, I have no doubt that you have a great product that you can be proud of and that you can use to transform the organizations, people, and communities you care most about. And then also use your research to leverage it to then build generational wealth for yourself and your family. I'm a firm believer in doing both, having impact in your research and generating income. And so again, if you're looking to get through the dissertation process, feel free to reach out to us. Visit www.velocitydissertation.com and apply to work with us. Our cohort is over halfway full. And once we hit our cap of students, we will close it and you'll have to wait until the June 2022 cohort. So if you're not looking to wait 6-7 months to get some support and you need it now is a great time to apply because spots will fill up quickly. And again, we want to make sure that you get through the process. So with that, I'm going to end for tonight. And I look forward to talking with you all next week. Shoot me a DM if you need some support. And I hope you all have a blessed week and have a happy Thanksgiving. Talk with y'all soon.